Hello and welcome to another episode of Motors for the Masses, and today we have two bikes that are 63 years apart in what is a video that shows the pros and cons of an old classic and a new classic. So let's roll the intro and get cracking. Crack! So over here we have a 1958 Matchless 500 G9 Super Clubman.
And here we have the new 2021 Royal Enfield 650 Interceptor.
Now this is not a video where we see which is fastest, which corners better, which has the more brake horsepower. We will tell you some details, but that's not what it's about. It's more a video to show the pros and cons of owning and running a modern classic or an old classic.
But before we get into that, let's tell you a bit about the bike, shall we?
Matchless was founded in 1899 in London by Henry Collier and his sons. One of his sons, Charlie, won the TT races in 1907, averaging 38 miles per hour in a mere 4+ hours. In 1931, Matchless bought AJS, provided V-twins for Morgan, then were absorbed by AMC, Associated Motorcycles, in 1938, who later also owned Francis Barnett, James and Norton. AMC then became Norton Villiers in 1966, and Matchless was no more.
Royal Enfield have made motorcycles since 1901. Founded in England, they have made bikes in India since 1955, and their English part became part of Norton Villiers in 1967 until its demise in 1973. They have been making bikes in India since then, so let's have a look at these two.
The Matchless G9 has a 498cc twin-cylinder, double overhead valve, 4-stroke engine which develops 30 brake horsepower and 24 pounds-foot of torque.
The Matchless has a 648cc twin-cylinder 4-stroke single overhead cam which develops 47 brake horsepower and 38 foot-pound of torque.
The Matchless has a 4-speed gearbox, being 1 up, 3 down, gears on the right.
The Interceptor has a 6-speed gearbox, being 1 down and 5 up. I think the pro there goes to the Royal Enfield as it uses the gearing that most bikes use.
But in 1958, gears the other way around and on the other side were not uncommon.
Fair enough.
However, this bike does have a serious fault.
What's that?
No oil leak.
Did you actually check the oil?
Still no oil leak. Yeah, it's not very British then, is it? Okay, plus it does have a major fault. Hang on. Aha! I spot a drip of oil. Oil.
So no fault.
No fault at all. It is definitely British. Move on. The Matchless has a 0 to 60 time of 8.9 seconds.
And the Royal Enfield is 5.5 seconds, so it's better.
Okay. The Matchless uses a carb, advanced in retard, has a choke and a fuel tap.
And the Royal Enfield has none of that nonsense, it's just ECU and fuel injection.
So is it better?
Yes.
But I
said yes. Just move on.
Okay. The Matchless has a top speed of 85 miles per hour.
And the Royal Enfield is 105, so I win that again.
Look, all you're doing is showing that time has just made things a bit easier, but the con of that is that people's mechanical knowledge has worsened.
Or it just shows that you can just get on and ride the bike and not worry about constantly fixing the bloody thing.
Which is part of the riding experience.
An annoying part of the experience that's not really necessary.
I'm not going to win this one, am I?
No.
Well, let's talk about something else then. Weight.
How long for?
No. How much do they weigh?
Oh.
This is 179 kilos. That is 202. What do you got to say about that?
Well, this has a liquid cooled 650. This is an air cooled 500. Next.
All right, okay.
However, this is better for the environment.
Okay, I'll give you that one. However, when we were out riding earlier, I was on that following this, and the smell from this was brilliant. I love the smell. Sounds fantastic, and smells fantastic.
It smells like a leak to me.
So it may have been that. I may have been getting splatterings of oil on me, but it smelled great at the time. I'm winning this one. I like this. I like that. But I love this.
Keep this, take this one home. Or should I say, ditch this, take that one home.
No! What do you mean ditch this?
Mate, it's 60 years old.
Exactly. In 60 years' time, will this be the same as this?
If Dave has it, probably yes.
Well, yeah, fair point. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, you're probably right. So we are now here with the owner of both these bikes. Thank you very much for lending these bikes. So I'm introducing you to David. David owns both these bikes. And why did you buy both of them? First of all, let's start with the Matchless. Why did you buy that?
Well, 1963, I was 16. I took my test on one because in those days you didn't have to have a crash helmet, and you didn't matter what cc your bike was. So I had great fun on that, and every time I ride it, it just takes me back to when I was 16. So basically, and I do like tinkering with them. That's why I bought it. It's a bit of nostalgia.
Right, nice. Okay, so why the Interceptor?
Well, the Interceptor, great looking bike, rides well. It's not unlike the Matchless. It's just a lazy man's bike, because you just go out, push a button, and away she goes.
A lazy man's bike?
Yes.
Okay. So, would you say that this is easier to own, or that is easier to own?
The Enfield is much easier to own, but I do like slinging that one about, because I'm used to them when I was a youngster. But this, you just can't fault it. You just go out, as I say, push a button, you're off. There's no carburetor to mess about with, there's no advance and retard, it's all done automatically. So it's just a great bike to have some fun on.
Okay. Now, if you had a choice of one, and you had to get rid of the other, and you can only keep one, which one would that be?
Well, that's a toughie. I think I'd probably go for the Enfield, again, because it's easier to look after, maintain, because you can't really do a lot with spanners on that one, which you can with that one. This one is spanners. This one you can't do anything with. You have to plug it in, diagnostic check, etc, etc. So that is easier to maintain because there's nothing to do. It just goes in the shop and they do it.
However, if you're out on a journey and you're 100 miles from home and they break down, which one would you have more confidence in fixing?
That one.
Exactly.
I know that one inside out, upside down, and it's basic. It's got magneto on, easy.
But you'd still, out of the two, go with that one?
I'd go with that one,
okay,
because of all the technical stuff that's gone into it.
Yes, I understand. I don't think, if that was my choice, I'd be able to make a choice, which is why I've probably got 10 bikes in my garage.
Yes, probably.
I struggle to know which one's best. Okay, so getting back to basics, ride. Which one do you think is the nicer ride?
I prefer the Matchless.
Okay.
Because it's slightly lower, and I'm used to that sort of bike forever.
Okay. So that sort of brings me back to the question of which one would you choose? Because you would enjoy riding that one more, but you like that one more. That's a weird dilemma. That's why I don't think I could ever get rid of one, which is probably why you've got both in the garage.
That is right. That's exactly why I've got both. It's the best of both worlds.
The only thing that's different about this than the original is the exhaust, isn't it?
That's right. I didn't like the trumpet exhausts.
It came with it, you've got them?
I've still got them.
Right, okay.
There was nothing wrong with them, and they came with the trumpet or with those. But this one obviously had the trumpet on, and so I just prefer that shape.
The look, is it?
The look.
Oh, okay.
That's all it is.
All right, fair enough.
Again, that's what I had on my first bike.
Okay. All right.
So I just kept it as it was, you know.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, thank you very much. It's been a fantastic ride. It's been great riding both of them. I've ridden this before, as they know. I love the way that rides. But this, to me, is just a nice experience. It's fun to ride. I think this is more fun than that, personally.
Yes, I agree.
This would be great to go out on a daily blast, but that would just put smiles on your face all day long.
Which it does.
And I think that's what's missing from modern motorcycling. The big smile factor. You've got your fast super bikes and you've got your bikes that do 180 miles an hour. But when you're talking about this style of bike, this one I think is masses of smiles, where that is just, you're happy.
Yes, I think you've hit the nail on the head.
So I don't think it matters if you're 70, 60, 50 or 40. I personally think, and I think you agree, is that the older bikes just have that much more grin factor than the newer bikes.
Yes.
But then we've got modern technology. Jamie would not agree, would you?
No.
But he doesn't count because he's not here. Right, back to the yard. The riding experience, I do want to mention briefly the riding experience. Now, out of these two, this rode more comfortably. The seat was more comfortable. The position was more comfortable. The gear change was just as smooth on both, I'll be honest. I mean, obviously it's a little bit different trying to get it into first because you're just like, we're in. But other than that, it just rode so much nicer. The suspension was nicer on this than it was on that, I feel. It just felt a little more bouncy, whereas that was just a little bit jittery.
I suppose it depends on what you look at. I mean, like Dave earlier, he says this one, for him, rides a lot nicer than this one.
Yeah.
Because it's the way Dave rides. Dave don't ride like, you know, everyone rides differently.
This one's got a slightly lower seat height, and I think he prefers that because he's not the tallest of people.
It's like me, you know, I can't see myself swinging this one around too much with its nice, lovely square tyres. I prefer nice rounded tyres.
But he thinks that he can swing this and sling this round corners much easier than he can that.
Yeah, but again, another difference is Dave probably means swinging around corners at a 10 degrees lean angle, where we're on about 30 to 40 degrees lean angle.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah, I mean, we do lean over quite a bit more, and you can see by his chicken strips that he basically steers round corners rather than leans round corners.
So this may be more comfortable as a general rider.
Yeah.
However, you want to have fun, I think this will be a better bike.
But you're talking about a rider that rides both these that's in his mid-70s.
Yeah.
Whereas,
I can understand the point of this is keep it nice in the garage. Lovely, I've got an old classic. Take it out to a few club meetings. I love a few of the old boys would love it. But other than that, this would be a daily driver for me. This just, I can't see me riding something like this as a daily rider.
Okay, I mean, dimensions-wise, they're pretty similar. Nothing much has changed. I mean, this is 2.2 metres long. That's 2.1 metres long. 710 millimetres wide, 750, I want to say, maybe a little bit less. There's not much difference. There is a little bit of difference in the weight, whereas this is lighter, which I probably wouldn't have expected, to be honest. And I know there's most of the weight of a bike is in the engine, but I would have thought this would have been probably a little bit heavier.
I mean, there's a lot more substantial frame on the Interceptor, which is going to be steel, isn't it? So it's going to be heavy.
Yeah, I mean, the pros of that is that everything's modern. You've got ABS, you've got disc brakes.
Yep.
On this, you've got drum brakes. Braking is more of a planning event than just applying the brakes.
Yeah.
You know.
This takes a bit of thought to ride, whereas that doesn't.
Yes.
But then again, if you're Dave, this probably doesn't give much thought because he's just so used to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I suppose it's what you're used to at the end of the day.
I don't know. I don't know. If I had the choice of the two, I mean, I think it comes down to what bikes I've got anyway. I think I would have this.
Yeah. Are you saying that because you got nothing like this and all your other bikes are pretty modern?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Rather than, oh, I really want a classic
This
bike.
doesn't necessarily fit into a category at the moment because I've got lots and lots of bikes that are all very different, and I don't have a space for something like this. Whereas I've got space for this.
For me, I suppose the main drawback for me would be, say we're out, accidentally stalled it, I could just press the button on this and carry on. This, I have to reset everything, do this, pull this lever, do that, and it might start.
Part of the riding experience. It starts first time, every time.
If you get the procedure right.
Excuse me, I do have one advantage over you. This is keyless.
It's easier to steal, isn't it?
Who's going to steal it? The effort, I don't mean that as in look at it, no. The effort to start it, no one's going to steal it because you've got to turn the fuel on, you've got to prime the fuel, you've got to set the advanced retardant, you've got to set the choke before you even attempt to kickstart it without it kicking back and smacking you in the shin.
This is the ultimate bike for security because no one could be bothered to even start it.
Yes, yes, and it looks the best. Looks-wise, I think this knocks spots over that.
I do like the look of classic bikes. It's just really hard for me to go from a modern bike that handles really nice and blah, 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 to something like that for me.
I can see what you're saying. I mean, I'll be honest, when you when you look at the video, I don't know at this stage whether I've showed it or not yet, probably. If so, you may have noticed. On the Speedo, it doesn't, it's more like a clock, as in it ticks to 30 miles an hour, and then it ticks back. It doesn't just go 30 miles an hour. It might be that everything is old, but it doesn't just tick to it, or it doesn't just smoothly run to it, it ticks to it. It's like the opposite of a Rolex.
I mean, I haven't ridden this myself, so I don't know what it feels like, but older bikes to newer bikes, when I've rid them, everything just feels less tolerated, a bit looser than a modern bike. Did that feel like that when you rid that earlier? Did it feel a bit...
No, it didn't.
No?
Not at all. No. Out of the ride, I honestly preferred the ride. It was softer, it was more forgiving, it was easy to ride. The gear change was fantastic, it was very, very simple to ride. That, again, easy to ride, but the suspension was harder, the seat was harder. As a comfortability tool, this wins. As a looks tool, this wins. When we had that 6T, that Triumph 6T, that rode okay, but it didn't ride as nice as this.
Fair enough. So in reality, this for you then?
Yeah.
And for me, because I do with paper stats, this for me.
What do you think? Over to you. Let us know in the comment section below what you think of these two. Would you go for the modern classic or the old classic that you need knowledge to make sure it works?
It's softer because the suspension's worn out. 60 years old.
Okay, Malcolm has piped up from beyond the grave to say that the suspension's worn out, that's why it's softer. You know nothing, go home! Okay, before we talk about the value of them, let me just touch on one other little plus and negative, or pro and con of this. One con is that you've got to use your hands to turn left and right, because there's no indicators. However, a pro is that it has adjustable dampener on the front suspension there.
Cool.
You got that on there, have you?
No.
No. See? Old technology, better than new technology.
Or this is just set up so it works. That you need to fiddle to make it work.
Anyway, so the value of these bikes are...
Well, the Royal Enfield is just over £6,000.
Whereas this is worth about £5,500. And that is 63 years after it was built, made, born, whatever you want to call it. One con of that is that it will lose value. One pro of this is that it will never lose any more value. It will only gain value.
Yeah, I mean, how much was it in 1960 something? 250 quid?
Possibly. Yeah. Okay, but look at what it's worth now.
Yeah.
And in 5 years' time, it'll be worth probably £7,000. Whereas in 5 years' time, that'll be worth £2,000.
Yep.
And in 63 years' time, if it's still around, it may be worth £7,000.
Yeah, I mean, the only time it's going to go up is at the moment. Because supply and demand, and prices are just going nuts at the moment, aren't they?
Absolutely that. So, there you go. That brings us to the end of this episode of Motors for the Masses. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next time with something else. Don't know what, because no idea at the moment. So, is there anything else you have to say?
No, I think that's it, really.
Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video. Click the notification bell. If you want to support this channel, please have a look in the links below with our Patreon link and our merchandise shop. And we will be back next time with something very special, possibly. No idea. So until next time, please ride and drive carefully.
But have fun.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, careful. Don't damage it. 63 years old, you know.
Gone down by 100 quid already.